Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Your Spiritual Journey. This is Dr. Bob, and this is the space and the place where we talk about things important to your soul. As always, we ask that you like us, leave comments, subscribe, and maybe even support us on Patreon. All of that keeps us on the air. So today's guest is somebody very special. She has taken on something that many people have tried, and I guess she's tackled the Tao. And we'll talk about that later after we hear about her spiritual journey. But she comes from a home that honored multiple belief systems, which she was able to later weave into her adult life as a technologist with an engineering degree, a partner with a husband, a mom with a daughter, and as a spiritual student. She lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, but has come to us from India. And I'm going to turn the mic over to Prashanthi Amarnath and let her tell us her spiritual journey from childhood till now, and then we'll get into her book. Prashanthi, the mic's all yours.
Thank you, Bob. It's truly an honor to be here. And I mean that with sincerity, not in a in a polite speaker opening line way. My name is Prashanthi. I'm the author of Embracing Paradox, a book inspired by Tao Te Ching, which for those of you who haven't read about it, it basically is a 2,000-year-old text that gently tells you to relax while also refusing to explain itself. And my connection to the Tao didn't come from a scholarship, it came from a longing to understand the intelligence that lives beneath the language, beneath the identity, beneath the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. And beneath that endless inner monologue that says things like, am I doing this right? Like what drew me to Tao is its refusal to be captured. And the moment you try to define it, it slips away. Which, if you're someone like me, right, who enjoys a little control in life, and I say this lovingly, right, is deeply inconvenient. And somehow that mystery felt like home. And the Tao teaches that everything, every joy, every fear, every transition is sacred. And when you begin to see life that way, something really shifts. You stop fighting the moment and begin participating in it. And long before I ever encountered the Tao, I was very fortunate to have a guru in this lifetime, Sri Sathya Sai Baba. His presence shaped the foundation of my spiritual compass long before I had a language for any of this, Bob. But my spiritual foundation didn't just come from one person, right? I grew up surrounded by multiple belief systems, and I think that planted a quiet seed in me very early. The sense that no single worldview carries the full picture. And instead of searching for the right belief, I became fascinated by the space between the beliefs, the place where different truths meet and inform each other. And my parents were deeply spiritual, but they were not rigid. They created a home that felt open, safe, curious. There was no pressure, no dogma, just a gentle invitation to explore, question, and discover. And for that, I'm forever grateful because that environment taught me something important very early on, that spirituality could be lived and not enforced.
So
And then that was my
were your parents from two different spiritual traditions?
So no, they were from the same spiritual tradition, and they also followed the guru that I followed.
Okay.
So my grandparents were devotees of Sri Sathya Sai Baba, and then that tradition got carried to my parents, and both my parents were devotees. And when they came together, they met in one of these. They were like childhood love. So they met. They were when they were very young, and I guess they both followed the same path, the same guru who embraced all religions. And and that is something very special about him during that time, because he brought people of every faith together, Bob: Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, and spoke about the unity of all humanity. His message was simple, but it was deeply transformative. He said, truth is one, paths are many, love all, serve all, and that's all. That teaching just stayed with me. It taught me that wisdom doesn't belong to one tradition. It just flows through all of them, which was very helpful later when I discovered Taoism and realized that I didn't have to convert. I just had to recognize something that was already familiar. And his guidance was never about dogma, ritual, right? It was about how to live, how to love, how to act with integrity even when no one's watching you, which honestly is when most of us need the guidance the most. And he thought that the divine isn't somewhere else, it is in everyone and everything. And once that idea settles into you, it is very hard to see like unsacredness. Even in the traffic you see the sacredness. And what's funny is that I didn't realize he was preparing me for the Tao at all. Years later, I had this quiet, almost inconvenient, mystical moment where I just woke up feeling completely pulled towards Tao Te Ching. I have not heard about Tao Te Ching before that moment, and no explanation, no logic, just a very calm, very persistent. You should read this. The next day, during the multi-faith prayer that I offered to my guru, the prayer I had sung since childhood, Bob, I found myself singing the line, Rahim Dao too. That means you're Rahim and you're the Tao. And suddenly the word Tao just lit up inside me like it had been waiting patiently. And I realized that his message of unity had already planted the seeds long before I consciously knew what the Tao was.
Yeah.
It felt like he opened the door and the Tao just smiled and said, "Oh, you're there."
Well, I'm going to back you up for a minute. So
Mhm.
I'm assuming that your guru was in India, and that was
Mhm.
uh, where you worked with this guru. But at some point, you ended up coming to the United States. So how did that happen?
Yes, great question. Because, okay, so when I was in India, spirituality wasn't something that you study, right? It's something you breathe. You witness it, you live inside it. And
Hmm.
some of my most formative experiences happened long before I had the language to explain it, Bob. I saw things my logical mind had absolutely no framework for. Like moments that just didn't fit neatly into the cause and effect. My guru would wave his hand and produce a beautiful flower or a fruit. Like, how is that possible? My
Yeah.
mind was just, and that was a quiet recognition inside me that said maybe reality is bigger than what I understand, not a belief, a felt truth. But then, very humanly, right, I swung in the opposite direction. I came to the United States. I entered the world of science, tech, logic, data, and a part of me that had witnessed that unexplainable started asking me, was that real? Or was I
Mm.
projecting? Or was I just too young or naive?
Yeah.
And honestly, that swing, Bob, was necessary. It really strengthened my discernment. It taught me how to question without closing my heart, how to think without losing wonder. And that tension between mystery and reason became one of the deepest paradoxes in my life. so,
So
in
was it school? Was it going to college that brought you to the United States?
So I came to United States on a work visa.
Okay.
So I was into mainframes at that time. So mainframes is very ancient, and everyone were moving on, and I was somehow put into that technology, and that was a demand. in the U.S. and that for that technology at that time, and I got the visa because I was very young. I only had less than a year experience after graduated. I worked in India for less than a year, and then I was very, very fortunate, very grateful to have an opportunity to come to United States, and that really pushed me out of my trajectory where I was because I was living a very different kind of life in India, and I came here and I was smitten by the life here. I did everything I could because I was so young. I was 21. I had all the money in the world. I was making a lot of money as a tech professional at the time, and I had the time of my life. I had a ball. So, and I said that, I think I really needed that swing. That tension that I talk about between that mystery and the reason, it made me question everything,
Yeah.
everything about reality and everything I knew before, and then I swung on the other side. But now I'm in the center. I'm a Tao.
So you met your husband here when you moved to the U.S.?
So I met my husband in the United States, but he's from Australia. So he's got his own story. He was born in Singapore. He was raised in Singapore, and then he moved to Australia when he was in high school, and then been living in Australia since. And then he's our family relative. Someone in our family knew someone. You know how matches in India work, Bob. So it's always through parents fix you up. So it was one of those marriages. I met my husband. So he traveled to the United States to meet me, and yeah, we decided to get married the very day we met.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
yeah. So I got married very young. I got married when I was 23. And I've been married since.
Okay. Well, you only look like you're about 25 now, so I don't know.
Oh, thank you, Bob. I appreciate that.
Okay. All right. So you only came to the Tao a couple of months ago,
A couple of years ago.
couple of years ago. Okay.
Yep.
And it was this mystical experience that sort of got you there.
Yep.
Uh, I have to admit that I've spent a lot of time with the Tao.
Mm-hmm.
Many years ago, over 15 years ago, I was introduced by Wayne Dyer's Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life,
Yep.
Living the Wisdom of the Tao. And then about 5 years ago, with another spiritual group, we did a study of just Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching with a foreword by Barbara Marx Hubbard, which took a very spiritual view of it. And one of my surprises, I guess, was that, and I have a third version of the Tao, which is mainly pictures along with the ideograms. And I thought, well, why do we need one more version of the Tao? What could this author possibly offer us that I'm not already familiar with? And I was very pleasantly surprised at what you do offer in this book. And, basically your approach to it is so practical and yet deeply spiritual at the same time. So could you talk a little bit about, not only the why, but the how you made decisions about the writing of this and the structure? So how did that come about, or was that all part of this mystical experience that you that you knew exactly what you had to do and how you were going to do it?
I want to share the moment that led me to write the book, right? Because it didn't come from clarity. It came from being completely lost. At that point in my life, Bob, everything looked good on the outside. My career was thriving. My personal life felt stable. I was doing all the things that were supposed to mean success, right? Honestly, it almost felt too good to be true, but internally, I was at a crossroads. I couldn't tell where I was heading anymore. I was moving fast, achieving, building, but I wasn't sure why. The direction that once felt obvious had become strangely hollow. And then I went on a business trip to Washington, D.C. I checked into my hotel room the night before a major presentation, one I had prepared for extensively and one that mattered. And that night, everything collapsed. I became extremely sick. Suddenly, all that strength, the control, the momentum I had built just disappeared. I was away from home. There was no one to pick me up, no one to take me to the ER, no safety net. It was just me alone in that hotel room, completely at the mercy of myself. And in that moment, something very real happened. The identity I had been living from, the capable one, the high performer, the one who had it all together, just fell apart. And I'll say this honestly, with humility and a little humor, right? I was full of ego. And that night knocked me right out of it. Not gently, not symbolically, physically, emotionally, completely. And eventually I did recover. Life moved on. But something in me had shifted permanently. And during that moment of vulnerability, when control was gone, I felt an undeniable pull, a summoning to get into Tao Te Ching, not as an idea, not as a philosophy, but as something I needed. And the more I read, the more something aligned inside me. It was subtle at first, then unmistakable. I began seeing synchronicities everywhere, not dramatic ones, but quiet confirmations, conversations, timing, inner clarity, just returning in a way that felt organic, not forced. And something else happened, right? My mind, which had always been busy, driven, in motion, entered a completely different zone. I would finish my work during the week and then spend my weekends writing, holidays, early mornings, late nights, not because I had to, but because I couldn't not. Like it didn't feel imposed, it didn't feel like an effort. It felt like being carried. And that's how the book was written, not from an ambition, not from a plan, not from, but it from an alignment. I wasn't trying to write a book. I was trying to understand how to live without forcing, without clinging, without pretending I was more certain than I actually was. And slowly, verse by verse, reflection by reflection, the now began organizing something inside me. And the irony is this, right? I thought I was at a breaking point, but I was actually at a returning point. That hotel room wasn't a place where things went wrong. It was a place where something false fell away. And what emerged wasn't a new identity, but a deeper honesty. And that this book comes from that place, from surrender instead of striving, from listening instead of pushing, from allowing life to interrupt me and teach me. And that's why I believe it came into the world the way it did. Not because I planned it, but because in that moment I finally stopped trying to control the direction and let the way, let the Tao just reveal itself.
Wow. Okay, so some people, I know, talk about getting down to the dark night of the soul before they before they emerge. Uh,
Yep.
it's like the caterpillar becoming the butterfly,
Yep. There you go. It
and
was a transformation.
yeah, you had that butterfly in you all the time. You just didn't know it.
Absolutely.
So, so
Absolutely.
the structure itself, then,
Hmm.
uh, you give us an interpretation of the passage. And for those of you who haven't read the Tao, there are 81 different verses or stanzas or passages, whatever you want to call them. So you begin with the core message. Then you go on to talk about paradox, and paradox being key to this whole thing. Tell me, I guess, what it is about paradox and the Tao that make paradox the key point. I guess as you thought about a title for this book, why did you settle on paradox?
Absolutely. And I know you touched about how this book was meant to be but meant to be used. I want to talk about that a little
Okay.
bit because how this book is structured, because it wasn't designed like a traditional book, like you said, Bob, and that was very intentional, right? Embracing paradox is inspired by Tao Te Ching, but it is not meant to be read intellectually from beginning to end. It is meant to be lived with, right? The first section of the book, which with the translation of each verse. So when I approached Tao Te Ching, I didn't rely on a single translation. I spent time with many translations, the ancient ones, the modern ones, the poetic ones, the academic ones, not to decide which one was right, but to listen for that shared essence. And I wanted to understand the core message of each verse, the heartbeat behind the language. And once that became clear, I would sit with it in deep meditation and contemplation, not to analyze it further, but to let it settle into my body, my breath, my lived experience. And I stayed there until something felt right. And only then I would start to write, not what the verse meant historically, but what it was asking us of today, because how it might meet us in daily life, in relationships, in work, in uncertainty, in moments when life doesn't give us clear answers. And that's why the first section is not a commentary, it's a translation through presence. And the second section of the book, like you said, it explores the paradox within each verse, because the Tao never speaks in straight lines. What I found was the Tao speaks in reversals, like tensions and contradictions, like strength through softness, effort through non effort, knowing through not knowing. If you're a modern seeker like me, I would be like, what? That doesn't make sense. How
Yeah.
can you achieve something with no effort? Right? So I reflect on those paradoxes, what those paradoxes are actually pointing to, and more importantly, how I've tried to live them. That part of the book comes from my embodied experience, not theory, not perfections, but lived atoms. The moment where I got it right, moments where I didn't, moments where life forced me to slow down, to surrender, or to see differently. And I wanted to be honest about that, because paradox isn't something you resolve, it's something you walk with. And then each chapter also ends with an affirmation, right? That part is very important, because these affirmations were never written for an audience. They were written for me, as anchors, as reminders, as ways to return to myself when the mind pulled me too far ahead or too far back. And what I noticed over time was that this process, this reading, reflecting, embodying, affirming, quietly changed my life. Not dramatically, not overnight, but deeply. It softened how I met myself. It changed how I moved through uncertainty. It helped me be gentler in moments when I would have once been harsh. And that's when the idea of publishing arose, not as a goal, but as a question. If this process helped me, what if it could meet someone else where they are? And so the book grew. It became larger than I ever expected. It's a big book. I mean, not because I planned it that way, but because the Tao kept unfolding, verse by verse, reflection by reflection. And here's how I imagine the book being used, right? You don't need to read it in order. In fact, I would suggest you don't. You can open any page randomly and read what's there. And sometimes that gives you more insight into where we are, where we want to head in life.
Hmm.
So it's yeah, that's how I think the book should be used. But honestly, it's up to everyone. But if I had to begin with honesty, right, I would say this, Bob, the Tao cannot be explained, and yet
Yeah.
I'm here trying to talk about it, and that in itself is the first paradox, right? The word Tao is often translated as the way, but it doesn't mean a path you choose or a direction you follow. The Tao is the way life moves when we stop interfering. And it is the underlying
Mhm.
intelligence of existence, the rhythm beneath all things. The Tao is not a God you worship, not a belief system, not a philosophy you adopt. It's the natural order that is already unfolding, whether you agree with it or not. The Tao is how river flows, how seasons change, how breath rises and falls, how growth happens without instruction. And the moment we try to define it too precisely, it just slips away. And that's why the Tao Te Ching opens with the paradox, right? The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. In other words, the moment we think we've captured it, we haven't. And and this is where the paradox enters the conversation. Paradox is not a contradiction in Taoism. Paradox is a description of reality. We're used to thinking in straight lines, good or bad, right or wrong, strong or weak, success or failure. But the Tao doesn't move in straight lines. It moves in cycles and relationships and reversals. And this is why Taoist wisdom sounds strange to the logical mind. Like yielding overcomes resistance. Like not knowing is closer to wisdom than certainty. Like at first they sound poetic, but maybe even impractical. But look at nature. Like water is soft, yet it shapes mountains. Trees that bend survive the storms. Rigid ones break. Night gives birth to day. Winter makes spring possible. So paradox is not a puzzle to solve. It's a truth to live inside. And here's where it becomes deeply personal. Most of our suffering just comes from resisting paradox. We want clarity without uncertainty, growth without discomfort, love without that vulnerability, peace without surrender. But the Tao teaches that life does not work that way. Yin and yang, the most famous Taoist symbol, are not opposites fighting each other. They are partners. Each contain the seed of the other. When one reaches its extreme, it naturally transforms. This means strength needs gentleness, action needs rest, knowing needs not knowing. And when we deny one side, imbalance follows. Paradox shows up not just in philosophy, but in our lives. We know conceptually that love matters, yet we struggle to embody it consistently. We understand oneness, yet we feel separate. I mean, we long for peace, but we still keep fighting ourselves. But from a Taoist perspective, this doesn't mean we are failing, it means we are human. So the Tao never asks us to transcend our humanity. It just asks us to stop waging war against it. And paradox teaches humility. It reminds us that wisdom is not about having answers, it's about staying responsive. It's about sensing this moment requires instead of forcing what we think should happen. And sometimes the wise action, move is action, and sometimes it's restraint, sometimes it's speaking, sometimes it's silence. The Tao does not offer formulas, it just offers orientation, and paradox is the compass. And when life feels contradictory, when you feel both strong and fragile, clear and confused, hopeful and tired, Taoism doesn't ask you to choose a side. It asks you to hold the whole because the Tao is not found by escaping tension, it is revealed by staying present within it. And maybe that's the most liberating insight of all. You don't have to resolve life to live wisely. You don't have to eliminate paradox to find peace. You simply have to stop insisting that reality be simpler than it is. The Tao flows whether we understand it or not. And paradox is its way of reminding us that life is not a problem to solve. It's a rhythm that we have to trust.
So is it not a paradox that you even attempted to explain the Tao, because the Tao that can be spoken is not the Tao?
Absolutely. Me writing a big book about it, Bob, is the biggest paradox of all. And me speaking about it, that's the second biggest.
Yeah.
So,
It's uh, I have an English language question. One, I want to compliment you on your English language writing, because English is not your first language, and yet the book itself is beautifully written. But I've run into spellings of Lao Tzu
Mhm.
as Lao Tzu, Tzu, Lao Tzu, Cze. I have never before seen your spelling of Lao Tzu, Tzii. So I am curious as to where that spelling came from, just because it's new to me.
You to me too. I didn't think about it, Bob.
Oh, okay.
I did not put a thought to. I've seen different, but then this one resonated, and I also seen Dow being spelled DAO, but I for some reason Dow spelled as T, even though it is pronounced D, made
Right.
sense to me because that's a paradox in itself to me, right? So it just suited so well. Like I just kept it as T because I don't know I just oh, like the Tao Te Ching, like just it's beautiful. When I see Tao Te Ching, it's such a beautiful, 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 beautiful book, and beautiful, not my book, but the the
Yeah.
verses that Lao Tzu wrote, such a beauty. And Lao Tzu just made sense to me at that point. But I need to look into that a little bit more, and see like why there are
Okay.
different variations into it. Yeah,
Okay.
thank
That
you.
that that was just a surprise. Uh, okay. So your guru, taking you back to
Mhm,
your guru,
mhm.
uh, and you said you still follow this guru, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's
Okay.
with me. He's all around me. He's me. So,
So would you say your guru is Hindu, or uh,
yes.
in what tradition does your guru land?
So my guru was born into a Hindu family. His parents were Hindus. But his wisdom, he was so wise, that his teachings are not confined to a religion, and he accepted all religions because he did not follow a dogma or a ritual. It was all about love. Love all, serve all was his message. And that's all. Very simple. He said there's divine in every single person that you meet, and that divine, you see that divinity in them, the same divinity that exists in you. That's all his message was. I know it's very difficult to embody that, right? It's difficult to love everyone in the world that we live in, but he puts you in a community. So we have a community. All of his devotees, we all offer. Sundays are dedicated for our communion. We meet. We sing bhajans, we sing songs, and I also teach at the center. I teach his teachings to little kids, the little those the 6 7 year olds, so they get the message of love, that there's only one truth, and that is love. And all you need in this world is to love other person and see the divinity in that person. And we teach that to kids young on, but when they're starting from 3 years old, we have kids that come to our class and learn about how to love everyone, and how to be kind and gentle in a world that is, what is going on in this world. So I'm like those birds that puts their head inside.
Okay, the teaching that you're doing, is it in person or
Mhm.
online?
It is in person.
It is in person. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
In a structure, is it a temple where you teach, or a
It
school,
is a
or
center. It's a school. It's like a center, and we meet every Sunday, and there are activities that we all do. Like I said, we have a structure to our classes, and my guru has laid out a structure on how these classes should be held. And we are called gurus as well because we teach. Guru is basically nothing but a teacher in Sanskrit. I'm a guru too, in a way. So it is. So he respects the gurus that teach. We call SSSC or Bal Vikas. That's what it's called, and we respect. Other religions, everyone's welcome. It's not confined to a certain religion or a language or a race. Everyone's welcome to attend these sessions. So it's very structured, and we follow a certain
yeah,
structure to it.
okay. So, are you still working uh, in your regular job, even though you had that ego break that led you to the Tao? Uh, are you still doing that same job?
I am. I'm still working in the same job, and I live through it. And I've asked my guru, why am I still? I mean, I know I've grown out of that situation that I am in currently at work, but there's a reason why I'm still here, right, Bob? Who am I to question the divine plan? So I've accepted it. I'm here for a reason. I'm doing the best I could, and I try practicing spirituality everywhere. It's not just at when I speak at the podcast, right? Spirituality is how I live every single day, how I interact with people, how I interact with folks at work, how I treat them. That's it's helped me so much, even in my career, to be a better person, to be a better manager. I work as a program manager for a consulting company. So I have clients that I work for, I have many clients that I work for. So I have to be very adaptive because every few months there could be a new client that I need to be working with. So it has really helped me with a lot of it's really helped me embody the Tao because this is a paradox I've been sitting lately with, right? And it feels important to name it honestly. It's the difference between knowing something conceptually and embodying it fully, right? Many of us understand the idea that we understand love, compassion, and oneness, and all of that. We've done it. We've read about it. We've heard it. We may even believe it deeply, yet living it is something else entirely because embodying love is not a single realization. It's not a permanent state. It's not something we achieve and then keep forever. There are moments when we live from that truth, when love feels natural, when compassion feels effortless, and when separation dissolves. And then there are moments when we fall back into old patterns, fear, defensiveness, judgment, and control. And this is where the paradox appears. If love and oneness are true, why do we forget them? The
Yeah.
mistake we often make is assuming that forgetting means failure. But what if forgetting is not a mistake? What if it is part of the rhythm? Embodiment is not linear. There are seasons of expansion and seasons of contraction. There are moments of clarity and moments of confusion. And this is and just embodying this has really helped me at my work as well. And whenever I see a regression, and I don't see that as a punishment, but I see that as an integration, something we revisit old ways, not because we fail to grow, but because we want something deeper that is asking to be seen, softened, and healed. And this is where acceptance becomes essential, right? Not as a passive acceptance, but honest acceptance, like you are inside it. And perhaps the most loving thing we can do is stop arguing with where we are and just trust this moment exactly as it is. It is part of a perfection far larger than our understanding. And that's why I've just let it go with the flow. If I have to work in this job for another couple of years, let it be. It's just meant to be, not because we planned it, because life plans for you, and to accept that is human, and to accept that awareness just deepens in layers. And when we look closely, we begin to see something humbling, right? We don't actually control the timing of our growth. We like to think we do, but we like to believe that if we understand enough, practice enough, try hard enough, we can remain permanently awake. But life doesn't move that way, right? There is an intelligence unfolding that is far greater than our personal will. Call it Tao, call it great, call it divine plan, whatever we use it. It's clear that these moments, the raising, the falling, the remembering and forgetting, are not random. They're exactly the way they are. And that really helped me shape my future, and what I want for my future to look like, because I'm just going with the flow, and I'm trying to learn to trust the process, to begin to understand that every phase has a purpose, even the ones that feels like what I'm feeling right now as a setback, even the slowing down, even the old habits reappearing, and the moments when love feels distant, especially those moments, because they teach us humility. They teach us that love is not fragile. It can withstand our humanity, and perhaps it is the deepest paradox of all. That
Yeah. So, have your colleagues noticed a change in you from that moment in the hotel? And uh, because it sounds like you've been able to not come from the ego as much and come from love instead.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Because the way I mentioned to you, I work at a consulting company where we have multiple clients. And when this it did happen to me in that instant, I was with a certain client, and my project finished right after, and I moved to another client. So I and I work with clients the most. I interact with them like all my work day. So they may have some people that I've constantly kept in touch. They had noticed, but they've always thought I was this way, because you know what, Bob? I was good at putting on a show before
Okay.
that. So, this. Okay, there was this lady I met. So she takes pictures of people, and there's like an aura around you. She could
Hmm.
sense, and she'll talk to you about the aura. And I went to her, and she's like, "You're putting on a show, aren't you?" I was like, and this was before the ego thing happened, and I was like, I don't know what she meant. I just didn't know what she meant.
Uh,
So she said, "Fake it until you make it,"
right.
to me at that time. So I believe I was really good at pretending I was such a good person, and this happened. And then, it just didn't look so different at all. It just was the same.
Yeah.
Just the same old natural me.
Okay. Uh, it sounds like the the Tao has given you, I guess, a sense of forgiveness, not necessarily of other people, but self forgiveness, that you allow yourself to go off the path. You allow yourself to maybe take a couple steps backwards, or
Mhm.
you allow yourself to forget what you need to remember, because you know that it's just a process and that the flow will come back around, that it's a spiral, it's not a straight line. Uh, is is that something that uh, you feel is true and that has brought you peace?
Yeah, it has, because staying in that middle ground has really given me the permission to be who I truly am. Just be the authentic version of yourself without all those self judgments that we talked about. Even someone judging how I speak, someone judging how I look, and coming out and putting myself out here in a forum like this has really helped me with that process as well. It's helped me to accept myself, and I see more people accepting me and inviting me to these events. I've learned to, okay, maybe this person sees something really good in me. Maybe I'm not as a bad person because uh, just because I think I am. So it's very comforting, and again, I want to say this humbly because that's validation. Right. I'm constantly looking for
Mhm.
validation, and that is something I'm fighting too. I recognize it. I know it's there in me, and it's not like I can put an end to it right away. It's going to happen, but it happens when it happens. Just like how that night happened, and I learned about Tao Te Ching. I didn't plan on it. Nothing comes when you plan or you force. Things just happen to you when you let it all just happen. And there is a paradox about the future, right? That really stopped me in my tracks the first time I really saw it, Bob. It's the future is not something you worry about, it's something you build quietly out of the present moment. Because most of us have been taught to see the future as something ahead of us, something to plan for, protect against, or fear. And we rehearse it constantly in our minds. And what if this happens? What if it doesn't? Am I doing enough? And am I already too late? And without realizing it, we abandon the only place where anything can really be shaped, the present moment. The future doesn't respond to anxiety, it responds to alignment. And when we are fully present in your authentic version, not perfect, not certain, not present, just present,
Mhm.
the quality of that presence just becomes the blueprint of what comes next. Right? if
Yeah.
if this moment is lived in fear, the future carries that imprint, and that is why positive environments matter, and while affirming inner dialogue matters. Because what why the and also that's why I say this to people. The people that you surround yourself with matter, not in a superficial good vibes way, but in a deeply embodied way, because when you consistently expose yourself to to shapes how you show up now, and how you show up now is what quietly builds what comes next. But being present isn't just about meditation or mindfulness, it's just showing up as your most authentic version of yourself in this moment, not the self you think you should be, not the self you're trying to become, the honest one. And that is crucial. And here's the other side of the paradox, and this is important, right? We cannot hold impossible standards for ourselves. Present does not mean being calm all the time. Authenticity does not mean being enlightened all the time. Alignment does not mean like feeling the fear, doubt, or exhaustion. If we turn presence into another achievement, we lose it. Right? And this is where the real magic lies, holding both the sides without clinging to either, wanting the best for the future while accepting that today may feel a little messy, and choosing that alignment while allowing yourself to be human, showing up concisely without punishing yourself for old patterns that resurface. More like when you're cooking pizza, you have to have it at the right temperature, and it's like that. Sometimes you have to turn the heat up, and sometimes you have to turn the heat down. So I read this somewhere. So
Okay.
anyway.
Well,
Uh,
and when you talk about metaphors, and there are quite a few metaphors in the Tao,
mhm, mhm.
uh, you throw in some of your own, and the experience that you had with the pinata. Uh,
Yeah.
I I
Yeah.
don't know, that kind of stuck with me as, yeah, that's very insightful. Could you talk about that experience and that metaphor for you and what it meant?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because in that verse, they talk about straw dogs. So straw dogs are something that ancient Chinese used to use in their ritual. It was like an object they used in the ritual, and after the ritual's done, it's gone. It's just it's on the floor. No one cares about it. And when I was thinking about that, I was like, what can I can't talk about because no one knows what straw dog is. Like the real world, my daughter wouldn't know what a straw dog is. My neighbor wouldn't know what a straw dog is. I had to like relate it to something that we all could understand. And that's where the synchronicity plays a key role here, Bob. I'm telling you, when I was sitting with that verse, my friend calls me up and says, "Hey, tomorrow is Easter. We have a picnic at a center. Can you buy a pinata for us? And can you fill it up with candies?" And I happened to go to the party place and I was looking for a pinata and I found the perfect pinata, and that's the experience I tried to describe in that verse. And it just beautifully aligned in such a way that, and that's what I'm telling you about Tao. She's something. She changes the moment she enters into your life. Everything changes. It's magical, and that's why Tao Te Ching is one of the transformational texts in the world. Anyone that reads it, and like you said, Wayne Dyer, he talks about that a lot in his change your thoughts and change your life book as well. And he talks about the book being very transformational to his life, and that's exactly what it did to me. And I hope anyone that reads this book will find it very transformational for them too, because it's life is worth living peacefully and effortlessly, Bob. When you're aligned with Wu Wei, when you're aligned with Tao, life just flows, synchronicities happen, and things just work out for you. You don't have to put that additional effort, like strive or do the hard work. What else? What more do you need in life than being in alignment with Tao and things just working out for you? You're always at the right time at the right place,
Yeah.
and now make sure that that works out for you. And that's and when and you have to believe in it, and you have to surrender to that force. And it's very important to get to that phase and give up and surrender, like I talked about, embodying something and knowing something. They're two different things. So it's a journey. Everyone has to follow their journey, and that's the reason why I am putting myself out here talking about Tao Te Ching. If this could do to my life, this could bring all the synchronicities and stuff in my life. It's like winning a lottery without, winning a lottery. So your life's set, and I want to make sure that, not make sure, but at least give this a chance. Give Tao Te Ching a chance, not through my book. It doesn't have to be my book. Just read Tao Te Ching, read the text, whatever translation that you feel connected to, because it's worth giving a try. It
Yeah.
really is.
Well, one of the things that I appreciate about your book that I haven't run into in any of the other readings of the Tao uh, is that in addition to your explanation of the passage and its core message, and then the discussion about the paradox that is held there, and then your example from your own life of how how you saw this application of that particular concept or the more than one concept that's within that passage. And then you provide an affirmation for the person to use.
Mhm.
And that to me is really looking at applying the Tao to your everyday life. So those affirmations, and I guess one of my questions is, do you yourself use those affirmations? Or did you just come up with them and allow them to be there for the reader?
That's a very good question, because these affirmations were never written for an audience. They were written for me as anchors, as reminders, as ways to return to myself when the mind pulled me far ahead or far too back. And 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 that's why it's very important. Inner dialogue is very important, consciously as unconsciously, about whatever we say is, we are magic, we are gods, we are divine beings. Whatever we say comes true. And we have to make sure that we always speak the right kind of words, the kind words, and emanate love, because that is very, very much in being at the heart of the Tao is love. And when you spread that love, and then that's why affirmations are very important, because that lets you that. So, and what I noticed, right, when I was going over this process of affirmation, was my life changed dramatically. And when I started embodying these affirmations, it just felt gentler. It just changed how I moved through uncertainty. It just helped me be gentler in moments where I would have been extremely harsh. And it really changed the way how I saw life, and how it helped me navigate through the the dramatic events that has happened in my life, and how I dealt with the past, and how I reconciled, and how I accepted myself for who I am, because whatever I went through was a process that I had to go through to be where I am. And I have to forgive and let that go, because that's not going to serve me anymore. What served me then will not serve me anymore, and I have to let that past shed and leave,
Yeah.
um, and, and and leave way to new risings. And that's the phase that I am in my life right now. I'm done faking it. I'm embodying the Tao, and I know it is blessing me, and it's touched my heart,
Yeah.
and it's here to stay.
So I'm aware that you were having a website developed uh, to help with the marketing of this book.
Yeah, yeah.
Is the website up yet?
Oh, this is a great question. You have to check the website out, Bob. It's up and live. It's at embracingparadox.com. I found, and this is again core of synchronicity, how things just work out. I didn't even want to create a website, and I was talking to someone like you regarding a podcast, and he had this beautiful website set up, and I looked at it, was like, this is so good, and he was like, yeah, you should have a website too. And I was like, I don't know if I want to have a website. But then he gave me a contact of this person named Forrest, and he lives in the UK, in London. And I contacted him, and I just gave him a couple of inputs, and he put together a website, Bob, even I wouldn't have been able to. It just speaks my mind. I don't know how he did that, and that's Tao at play. I'm telling you, he is my godsend, and he is he's put together a beautiful website. It's live, and yeah, do check it out. It's And you also get to read the first 5 chapters of the book on the website. Yeah, so
Okay,
it's a great
so
website.
would you repeat the website address again?
It's embracingparadox.com, the name of my book.
Okay,
Embracing. Yep.
embracingparadox.com.
Yep.
And I assume that in addition to being able to order the book on Amazon, you can order it through your website, yes?
There's a link to the Amazon on the website.
Okay.
So you have to go through Amazon, because again, that's a Wu way and play. I didn't want to put too much effort into, the publishing and all that. I just wanted to take the easy path. So
Okay, well,
Amazon was my
the Tao is about the easy path, right? So,
exactly.
of
It
course.
just reach the people that it's meant to reach in its own way. So I don't have to force the book on anyone at this point.
Okay, at this point in the podcast, I always ask if the guest would like to leave our audience with a few words of wisdom. You have already left them with many, many, many words of wisdom directly from
Thank
the
you,
Tao.
Bob.
But this is your opportunity to leave them with a few parting words, if you'd like to at this point.
Absolutely. So I want to cover one topic that has been heart of Tao, and it's very close to me, and which is the Tao Te Ching is extremely powerful for one essential reason, right? It was not written during a time of peace. It was written during collapse. Historically, it emerged in ancient China during the late spring autumn period, a time when political authority was disintegrating and warfare was just becoming constant, and leaders were obsessed with power and control, and society was fragmenting. And at that point, Tao Te Ching appears not as a call to dominate or not as a strategy to reform society through force, not as another ideology competing for power, but as a quiet refusal to play the same game. And that's where humanity's most enduring wisdom is not born when everything is working. It is born when everything is falling apart. And that brings us to now, because we are living through a time that feels deeply unstable. Systems are strained, certainty is dissolving, and fear and division are loud. But history tells us that something important here. These times are not meaningless, they're formative. When old structures collapse, something new is always trying to emerge. But that emergence requires patience, humility, and willingness to walk through uncertainty rather than force our way out of it. And that's something that we are dealing with right now. And we see that again in Bhagavad Gita too. Bhagavad Gita didn't emerge in a monastery or a place of safety. It unfolds on a battlefield. And all Tao Te Ching emerged in such situations. And Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote meditations not in comfort, but during a military campaign, during that political instability and a devastating plague surrounded by war and death. So the periods that we are going through right now is where we have to accept that not by pretending suffering doesn't exist. And this is why Tao Te Ching needs to be remembered now. It reminds us that it's okay to slow down, it's okay to feel disoriented, and it's okay to stop forcing answers. You do not meet chaos with more force, you meet it with clarity, with restraint, with alignment. And the Tao Te Ching is telling us how to escape history. It's teaching us how to stand wisely inside it. And just as Gita met Arjuna on the battlefield, and Marcus Aurelius wrote about his meditations between the war and how Tao Te Ching meets us exactly where we are, not asking us to rush towards resolution, but to trust that something meaningful is being shaped through this moment. And I genuinely believe that something better is coming. But to reach it, we have to walk this path consciously, humbly, and without hardening ourselves in the process. And that is why Tao Te Ching still matters, not because it fixes the world, but because it teaches us how to remain human, steady, and awake when the world around us is transforming. And if one message that I want our readers or listeners to take about this is this: to stay patient, and something great is coming. It's on its way, and I could feel it. I could feel it in my bones that we are going through an era where a huge transform. I'm not speaking this from like a mystical perspective, right? I'm talking this from an inner knowing, and embodying now and living through it has really helped me to understand and sense things around me in a much deeper way, and I'm speaking from that knowing that better things are on its way.
What a great message. Thank you so much for that. One of the things that this podcast focuses on is trying to help people find peace in a time of chaos. And this book will certainly help them do that. So thank you so much for attempting to nail down the Tao that will not be nailed down, and giving such gift to the world. So, audience, as always, take what resonates with you and incorporate it into your life. Put the rest on the shelf until you're ready to deal with it. And until next time, this has been your spiritual journey.